Okay. Hello again, everybody. Good afternoon. Happy Friday. Welcome. So we'll be starting the question and answer webinar for the Mural Consultant request for proposals now. First, I'll introduce myself. I'm Karen Goodfellow. I'm the Director of Public Art in the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, and I use the She series. And I'll pass to my colleague, Naida Faria.
Hello, I'm Naida Faria. I'm Director of Administration and Finance. I also use the She series, and I'll pass it over to Sarah.
Thanks. I'm Sarah Rodrigo. I also use the She series, and I'm the Senior Public Art Project Manager.
Great. Our public art program has grown exponentially in the last 10 years or so. And I hope that's why you're all here, that you share our excitement and our love for all this work that's happening. We're really excited to be able to continue to grow and work in partnership with folks who do this incredible work with artists and organizers and curators. And this is a wonderful opportunity for us to continue to expand. Here you can see some examples of recent projects across the city, but this certainly is not everything that we've been doing or everything others are doing. But we're in an amazing place in public art in Boston right now. And so I just want to take a moment for all of us here to honor that and express gratitude that we are here today. And our plan for today is really to go over the RFP together. The RFP can be accessed on the City of Boston supplier portal, which I imagine everyone who is here has access to, but we'll add the link to the chat. And in addition to this session, you can also email questions to me at Karen, Karin, .goodfellow@boston.gov. The deadline for written questions is today, Friday, December 2nd at 5 p.m. And we will post a consolidated list of answers to the supplier portal by 5 p.m. on Monday, December 5th. And our plan today is to review this RFP, as I said, and Sarah will go through page by page. We will take your questions, answer what we can, and get answers for the rest. If there's something we need to investigate on Monday, Naida is here to help us field some of those questions. This is a new process for us, and we're really excited. And again, if there's anything that we need time to check on a response to, we will get back to you and respond in writing on Monday. And with that, I will pass to Sarah.
Thanks, Karen. All right, so on the previous slide, you saw the cover page and the table of contents for the RFP, if you haven't already looked at it. As you may all be aware, the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture is looking for a consultant to collaborate with. Sorry, my script is a little funky here. On murals for the next 3 years, beginning in January 2023 and continuing until December 2025. The consultant will work with our office to provide advice on the selection of projects and project sites, the development and implementation of calls to artists, communications planning and coordination, community engagement planning and coordination, documentation planning, coordination and payment, and artist support, artist contracts and payment, and career development. This call is open to all arts and culture practitioners, organizers, and/or professional artists, curators, cultural workers, arts administrators, etc. This application opened on Monday, November 21st. An addendum was posted earlier this week, and the application closes on Friday, December 9th at 5 p.m. Eastern. The consultant must be available for the duration of the 3-year contract. So all of this information is on these 2 pages, page 3 and 4, including the budget. There's a total budget for 3 years of $3,525,000, which covers mural administration, payment administration, and artworks. All the costs associated with the projects administered through the consultant, including artist fees. I encourage you all to read through all of this very carefully. And I'll also mention that the RFP is open to any vendor who'd like to respond, but the city encourages participation from small, local, minority-owned, women-owned, and veteran-owned businesses. To support the equality of opportunity for these businesses, we also encourage respondents to solicit for the subcontracting of goods and services from certified businesses. I'm going to throw a link in the chat to Boston's business certification so that you can register and look at different options on that portal. And of course, I shifted my own window in doing that. Hang on a second. All right, can we move on to the next slide? So on this slide, we're continuing kind of the basic information and including the timeline for this RFP and the selection process. It's important to note that we can't take any questions about this RFP after today at 5 p.m., though our office can answer questions that are specifically about supplier registration and small business certification after that date, or refer you to people in those departments who can help you. You can read more about our office on page 5 as well. You can see in the left column. And at the bottom of the page is the timeline for the proposal and selection process. I'd also note that if we do interview candidates for this consultant, those interviews will take place on December 14th. So something to keep in mind as you're applying, that if we interview, that would be the day those interviews will be happening. I think we can move to the next page, which is section 2. So on pages 7 and 8, we detailed the scope of work for the consultant over the 3 years of the consultancy. This page also provides information about our office's responsibilities to the consultant. You can see that table that extends across 2 pages. And it really breaks down what the consultant's roles and responsibilities will be and what our office will be doing to support that work and partner with them. The consultant will be managing 10 to 15 murals or other mutually agreed upon public art projects across the city per year. We do ask for flexibility as lessons are learned over the course of the 3-year consultancy. But the table, again, provides the basis for the consultant's responsibilities on those projects. And I'm going to break away from the call for just a second before we dig into the rest of the RFP. On the next slide, we do have a screenshot showing the supplier portal, where I think most of you will have accessed this call already. And this is something that NIDA is far more familiar with than I am, but this is where you would go to reply to this RFP and to access the addendum document, the consolidated Q&A when we post that on Monday before 5. And I'm just going to throw this link in the chat as well, see if I can do it a little bit more efficiently this time, so that you all have it. All right, and we can go back into the RFP on the next slide. And this is where the next 3 pages dig into how you apply. There's 2 pieces to your submittal. The first piece is the technical proposal. So these 3 pages you see on the screen, 9, 10, and 11, go over what's required for that part of your proposal. That's where you tell us why you're the best candidate for this role. The second part that we'll look at next is the price proposal. So for this technical proposal, we're looking for you to do 6 things. Provide an introduction, propose your approach for this project, share your background and qualifications, describe your team, provide 2 references, and review and sign required contract forms. Each of those items is described in detail on those pages, on these pages. I'm not going to dig into every single item, but you should as you read through the RFP. The price proposal, which is shown on the next 2 pages, goes into this second part. So the selected vendor will receive $3,525,000. And this price proposal is where you provide an estimated breakdown of how you will spend that amount. Our office also requests that you include your hourly rate in the event that we choose to increase the services provided. We ask that you use the template provided here to list all of your costs. And I see Nida is adding some really helpful links to the chat on how to enter bids online. Thank you so much for that, because it is a bit of a process. Again, read all of the links, read through everything, and we'll get to that a little bit more in a couple of slides. So if your price proposal includes costs that don't fit in the template provided, please attach supplemental information describing those additional costs, the basis for your pricing, and any assumptions you made in filling out the template. Understanding the level of effort and cost for each deliverable really helps us understand your proposal. And I just want to note a few other things, and these are included here on page 12 and 13. The price proposal must be submitted separately from the remainder of the proposal. No price information may be included in the technical proposal. All prices are inclusive of travel, so there are no additional charges for lodging or subsistence, miscellaneous expenses allowed. Any taxes due will be assumed to be included in your price of services. The city is exempt from federal excise taxes and from Massachusetts sales and use taxes, and exemption certificates will be provided. You will bear the onus of any errors made in pricing the services. Again, we ask you to include your hourly rate, and if applicable, as determined by the Massachusetts Department of Labor Standards, the contractor will comply with Massachusetts prevailing wage law. So that pretty much covers the price proposal. Again, Nida put a whole bunch of links into the chat, which are going to really help you kind of work through that section of this proposal. Karen, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to pose a question. So the major things I'm understanding here and what we're asking for is we need, so your technical proposal, like what you're going to do, separate from everything about the money, because we aren't allowed to look at the budget stuff when choosing who the most qualified folks are. So that's why we need you not to do that, because that would like make it so we couldn't choose you. So don't tell us anything about how you're spending the money in your technical proposal. And I just want to clarify, we need to review them separately. We understand for you that you have to think about it holistically, but for our review, that's how we have to do it. And the other thing I wanted to pose, for us is that we are not asking you to give us any other sum than the $3,525,000, which I just want to clarify here. In the price proposal, we want to know how you plan on spending that money. We don't need you to underbid. So please do enter that as your bid. What we want to know is like how you would allocate those funds. And
Thanks,
Nida
Karen.
or Sarah, is there anything there? I just want to.
No, that was great to clarify that. Thank you. That was really, I think that was probably really, I found that helpful. I hope everyone else did as well. Yeah, I think we can't reiterate enough that if the price proposal is, or any pieces of it are submitted with the technical, then we can't consider the proposal at all. It is disqualifying, essentially. All right, so the next section is how to submit. And this is, again, where Nida's links will come in handy, where what Karen just mentioned is really helpful. There is a checklist here. We encourage you to use it to read through all of these documents and links before you kind of start to get into the weeds in submitting your proposal, and use that checklist. Because again, if documents are submitted in the wrong places, or if things are filled out wrong, that could be disqualifying. And I think we can keep rolling because I want to make sure we have enough time for people's questions. So how we choose, we do outline this over 4 pages, beginning on page 17, section 6, and this is how we're going to evaluate proposals. All of the proposals received by the city will be first reviewed to determine whether they meet a minimum criteria, and that's listed. You can see the minimum evaluation criteria. So those are standards or attributes that the city considers essential to the performance of the contract. Any vendor that doesn't meet the minimum criteria will be rated unacceptable and won't be submitted for further consideration. So that's what we're talking about. Did you submit the proposal by the deadline? Did you submit that price proposal separately from the technical proposal with no price information in the technical proposal? It's really important. Did you submit all the necessary forms and documentation? Again, the previous slide, we had that checklist. Use it so that you make sure you're not missing anything. If your proposal meets all those minimum evaluation criteria, then we evaluate the proposal based on the comparative evaluation criteria. And that includes 2 are listed on this slide, the proposal quality and the vendor experience and qualifications. And we go into quite a bit of detail here with what we're looking at. And then on the next slide, you'll see the other 2 criteria, which is the vendor interview demonstration, if necessary. And lastly, the diversity and inclusion plan evaluative criteria. Each proposal will be looked at for those definitely 1, 2, and 4 criteria. The interview demonstration may not be needed. But for each of those criteria, we will be evaluating the proposal as either highly advantageous, or not advantageous. And you can see descriptions for each of those under each criteria in the call. So it can be helpful to, again, read through it, familiarize yourself with what we're looking for and how we'll be evaluating. And I'll just add, vendors shouldn't count on interviews or demonstrations or reference checks as an opportunity to provide additional information. Put everything you want us to look at in your proposal. Make sure that anything you want us to consider is captured in the technical proposal that you're submitting, because we may not do interviews. There's a chance that anything additional wouldn't be, there's not an opportunity for additional information after you submit, essentially. I know Nida's smiling at me. She's like, you're getting into the weeds here. But it's true. So put it all in there. Make sure that anything you want us to look at, to know about you, is included in your technical proposal. All right. So once we've evaluated all of the proposals, we'll identify the proposal that's most advantageous overall from the pool of responsible and responsive vendors, and taking into consideration both the price and comparative evaluation criteria. And then the next 2 sections provide a lot of information about the city contract and the associated documents that the consultant will sign, some of which, Nida, feel free to jump in here, some of which that I believe they may need to sign earlier on. She's not jumping in.
No, so actually all these are, if awarded, these will be the contracts or contract documentation that the vendor or contractor will be required to fill. Also note, because this is funded via ARPA, so there's additional pre-award questionnaire that the city has to complete. So keeping in mind that there is some reporting back with ARPA funding, and we will work that out with the selected vendor.
Great. And ARPA is the American Rescue Plan Act, which is a federal funding that came to the city, correct?
Yes.
And I'll just add to that the standard city contract is not negotiable. Read through it, make sure you agree to it, because we'll be asking you to sign it if you're selected. So there's All of these documents are things that you will be expected to sign if you're the selected consultant. So make sure you're comfortable with that before you apply. I mean, really understand what we're asking for. And the last thing I'll mention is that we do have some insurance requirements listed on the right, on the last page, that again, you should familiarize yourself with in terms of what kind of coverages we'll be asking for the consultant to carry. And with that, I think we can take some questions if we want to jump into it. If people could put questions in the Q&A form at the bottom, or you could raise your hand.
And we got one question already, which I wrote. There was a question, what about option 2, which we had initially put out, but we revised. And so there's only one option at this time.
And all right, I think we have another question. What types of expenses are you expecting to be assigned to the $175,000 for administration? For example, are the expenses related to content creation and implementation and amplifying Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture issued communications considered an implementation expense or administration?
So I can jump in here. I mean, I think in sometimes like things might be a little fuzzy and we can work it out with the selected vendor. Sorry. But generally content creation, implementation, amplifying, I think that would be part of the primary work of the consultant, not the additional administration regarding finance.
And we have another question. Will the mural sites be limited to city property?
Not necessarily.
Could you talk more about what the community engagement portion of this scope entails?
Sure, and I'll say this one too is one we hope to work with the consultant on. So we're hoping whoever we work with comes with a vision and ideas about how we can be doing this work better. But really, it's about connecting with communities where artworks could be happening, connecting with communities where artworks have not been happening, thinking through different ways to connect with more artists. So I think it could take a lot of forms. It can also be working with artists who will be doing that work, who will be, maybe doing that as part of their work. So I think there are a lot of different ways we hope that community engagement will happen. It's obviously a very broad idea. We see like the communication plan also as part of that. So I think these things will support each other. But we do see it as sort of a layered approach that will be collaborative with our office.
And I think we have a hand up as well. I'm gonna.
Yeah. So I'll answer this question first. One question just came in. Are there sites that have already been identified? So we have some in mind. We have a couple at some local schools that we're hoping to be able to move forward, like the Carter School and the Josiah Quincy Upper, right?
Yep.
And there may be some, but they're not fully committed. Again, we're hoping when this person comes in, we can put out calls together, that this can be collaborative. But we do have some that we have thought about, and we'll be, starting the conversation from a place of generation with the consultant.
All right, and I'm going to allow a hand up to talk. Marlon, you have the floor.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you for this very informative session. Looking forward to learning more. I wanted to ask, okay, because I'm the one that asked about the option 2. We are a small organization, and the reason why I selected option 2 wasn't that we don't have the capacity to like grow it out, but because it wasn't part of like what we thought that we'd be doing. We haven't, we might need some time to get that up. What kind of flexibility is there? Like, let's say, because you say you're starting in January. So what time, like when do you expect like the first, mural and all those things to start going up and, and things like that? So there might be time for us to maybe set up something in regards to this, the payment administration.
I think when we finalize contracting with the consultant, we'll move straight into working on the call to artists and designing the program. I don't imagine implementation will start until the spring on any project, but I do think we're going to jump right into work.
Yeah, the planning and strategizing, design work. Okay, get it. All right. Well, that answers my question.
Great, thank you. I think we have another written question. How will the funds be distributed, in one lump sum or annually? It will be annually, and then I think we were talking about like how it works in terms of like paying the artist, what that will look like. I do think this, again, can be a conversation with the consultant, and NIDA will lead much of this work. So NIDA, if you want to come in, but we are not talking about doing one lump sum.
Yes, that it's correct. It's also because of the type of funding. We can not allow to put up $3 million out. So again, it's a 3-year contract, and we'll go year by year. And again, this consultant will have an ongoing relationship with our office. So if things need to be tweaked, like Sarah mentioned, if things need to be increased or moved around differently, we'll have that space. So, and it varies contractor to contractor. Might not want also the whole annual lump sum either, and we might break it up into segments throughout the year.
All right, we have another question. To clarify how funding is distributed, is it based on reimbursement or periodically in advance of incurring expenses?
It's not reimbursement.
No, not reimbursement. The key is that we want to make sure everyone's paid on time, especially artists. So again, this will be an extension to our office. So we will know ahead of time when there's a payment due to the artist, and we will issue that payment to the consultant. So that work will get done.
Yeah, and I think just to be clear, the reason we're structuring like this is to make it easier to pay artists. We are looking to make it a less cumbersome process for everyone, and that is our hope with this approach.
So we have 2 more questions. The first is, when would the first payment go out? And I think that's a hard one to answer.
Yeah, so usually a purchase order is open for, it'll be open for the full amount. It varies again, contractor to contractor, where we at, what timeline. Again, the timeline that we have on the RFP, it's what we, as of today, think we're gonna have. Anything can come up. So, thinking about like other mural priorities that might come up, but yeah, this would vary from like the time that we actually award a contract, open a purchase order for that, and anything else that might be going around.
Great. And The next question is, once an artist is selected, what is the approval process for the designs or artwork/artwork?
So it will depend on the project, right? So there is the question of community involvement. Is there anything being held to sort of support the artist in that? But once the artist is at a place where they feel like they have a design that they feel confident in and that the consultant feels confident in, we will go through our regular process of approval, which would be that there's a collaboration between our team, the public art team in the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, and the consultant to determine that it's ready to go and be reviewed at a public meeting of the Boston Art Commission. And so those are standard approvals. So they approve the artist. So we'll go to them at a public meeting and say, this is the artist we think should do the project. We will go to them when we say, here's the design we think would be great. And there are opportunities to have other connections with them if we wanted to. We could do that, but basically it is going through the regular approval process, which happens at public meetings, which means everything's on the record, no surprises, the designs are public, they're not unveiled, but it is a nice opportunity for folks to be able to see what is planned for their neighborhoods across the city, because we have that process there.
Okay, and I did just put a link in the chat to the Boston Art Commission webpage on our website so that you can read more about it. There's a link to their policies and processes, just lots of content there. So we have another question. As project budgets are often defined by mural sizes and specific sites, is this call asking for a full breakdown of all 3 years?
So I think we could have estimates of what we think like different projects might look like. We understand that, part of what we're going to be doing is choosing those projects together, and that they will be dependent upon site and scale and artist sometimes. So we will work on that, but I think seeing what the approach of the consultant is, how they'd recommend pricing them or approaching different projects, or even what they think would be a good variety of kinds and scales of murals to do over the course of a year would be helpful.
And the next question, for sites on privately owned buildings, is there a standard expectation about the role of the building owner in artist selection and design approval?
Well, ideally, they would sign off first, but we know in reality that can be very tricky. That's a bit of an art in itself, I think. So working with private walls is, something that we have the licensing agreement for, and we have them sign off. We understand that we need to keep folks comfortable with anything we'd be putting up on their walls, and we'd be working at that, but they are not commissioning the project. So we'd be looking for their support and comfort level as early as possible, but not looking for their design feedback, although we know that is not simple.
Okay, and the next question, will the consultant be creating marketing materials, signage, and public touch points and documentation of artwork as part of their scope?
So with that, I think a lot of this, again, is collaborative. I would take us back to that rubric we created that shows who's leading where, but it will certainly be a portion of their work. But I think, if you go back, you can look at that chart where it says MOAC leads here, consultant leads here. But a lot of these things would be collaborative on what's happening there. But we are looking for the consultant to be visionary, help us expand the way we're already working, bring their recommendations, and to work with us using our capacities as well.
All right, so that's all the questions we have at the moment. We can give everybody a couple more minutes to think. And again, we will be posting consolidated answers to any questions received via email or in this Q&A session on Monday by 5 p.m. on the supplier portal. I think it'll appear the same way. Nida, correct me if I'm wrong, it'll be in the list of documents and at that supplier portal link for the call. And we have another question. Will you be allowing certain administrative costs to be factored into the project funds, or will these need to be accounted for in the consultant fee only?
I think we would need a more defined certain costs.
Yeah, I don't know if the questioner wants to maybe give us an example, if you can.
I imagine, in the artist work, there's still going to be administrative costs that they can budget for when they're developing, when the artist is coming in, right? I guess I'm reading this a different way in saying that, like, the artist may also have administrative work to do that they will put in their budget. I don't know if that's a fair read on this, but I imagine when the artist is developing their budget, there will be still room for them to have a full project there, which will always include administrative costs. So I don't know if that is helpful. If there is something more specific, we can try to answer it, or I think it would be, again, worked out once we have a consultant on board. Because maybe there are things that we're not thinking of, and we'll come and say, like, well, hey, who's in charge of this? Like, how do we work this out? Where does this fit?
All right, we'll give it another few minutes. All right, we do have another question. What scope or scale of community events are you envisioning? And how would the consultant earmark those funds? I mean, I think when Karen answered the previous community engagement question, we really do expect to work with the consultants on this, and community engagement can take so many different forms that I don't think we have sort of a specific scope or scale of community events, because this could be a wide variety of projects, and there could be a lot of different forms that community engagement can take. And we find that with all of our commissions. So I don't know, Karen, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think, like, for some projects, folks might be more comfortable with something more intimate. I think we want to think about accessibility works for the community that we're working with. We've had some projects where we're working with residential areas with folks who have limited mobility. So I think like in terms of scale, like something really focused there, but could be amplified is important. But I think, again, we want to grow and develop in this area. I think this is an area we have a lot of room for improvement and are excited to do so with a consultant.
And I'm not sure about the earmark question. So the question was, how would the consultant earmark those funds? And I think we would rely on the consultant, in your price proposal to think about what you envision as a standard and how you would account for that. Does that, I don't know if Nida or Karen, if you wanted to add anything to that. All right, so we have another question as well, which is standard administrative overhead percentage included in project funds or administration? Your overhead should be covered in your price proposal. I would say that's an administration. That's my off the cuff interpretation of it. The consultant's insurance and office expenses would come out of their administrative fees. And not out of the project budgets per se.
Yeah, generally we'd be seeing the project budgets as really going to the artists. So it should cover their insurance, but your insurance should be coming out of the funds specified for the consultant.
All right, we'll give it a minute, see if there's some follow-up questions.
Okay, I think it seems like we're done with taking questions. Just to close out, Nida, is there anything else that you would like to add or emphasize?
Please do not wait till last minute to submit your documentation. Base, it's a very old software and it has its quirks. There is a vendor help desk in case you are need some help, and we can include that as part of the Q&A that we would upload. And they're able to help you with any complications that you may have with like your bidder or vendor ID, updating your information, entering the bid. But please don't wait till last minute. The person behind the vendor desk has limited time. And as you can see in the supplier portal, there's tons of bids out there. There's only one person at the help desk. So I would say just prepare and upload within time. So that way, in case there is errors, they're able to help you out and you don't miss the deadline.
Nida, if someone submits before the deadline, can they edit it or update it?
They cannot.
So once it's submitted, it's submitted.
Once it's submitted, it's
Okay.
final.
Okay. Sarah, anything from you?
Nope, I think that was a great last reminder to submit well before the deadline. If if someone submits late, even 1 second late, we can't accept it. It is, it's not within our control. So
Right.
please submit early, get everything in, and don't risk sort of missing that deadline or getting hung up with some spinning wheel in base and missing the deadline unintentionally. So just hammer that home a little bit for everybody. And just, we're excited. We're really excited about this. This is an excellent opportunity, and I think that we're all really looking forward to the next 3 years and some amazing projects that are going to come out of this.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We are really excited. Thank you for being here. I hope it all read pretty clearly. Do send us your questions if there's anything left. We have, what, an hour and 12 minutes to receive them. So if you have any questions, just shoot an email to me, Karen, ARIN.goodfellow@boston.gov. Yeah, shoot them off right away if you can, because after today, I am not allowed to answer them. So, yeah, all right. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for, I don't know, for being here for Public Art in Boston and for being open and willing to collaborating with us. We're super excited. Okay, bye all.